Ever pour a glass of milk
Uh-huh.
only to find it's
Yeah.
well past its prime? You know that moment when it's not quite milk anymore,
There's
but
like-
something a little more
Yeah.
solid and interesting?
Like you open the fridge looking for a refreshing beverage and find cottage cheese.
Exactly. Well, get ready to deep dive into a fascinating test that uses a similar transformation
Okay.
to reveal hidden talents in the bacterial world.
I like it.
It's called the Casein Hydrolysis Test.
Now you might be thinking, casein hydrolysis
Oh.
sounds a bit technical,
Right.
but bear with us because this test is anything but boring.
It's a bit like a detective using a magnifying glass.
Okay.
But instead of fingerprints, we're looking at what happens to milk when we introduce certain bacteria.
Interesting.
Imagine this. A scientist in a lab carefully adding a dash of bacteria to test tubes filled with milk.
Okay.
Then they wait.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because some of those test tubes will undergo a dramatic transformation. The once cloudy milk turns crystal clear.
It's like magic, but with a scientific explanation.
Exactly. That magic is the result of bacteria breaking down casein,
Okay.
the protein that gives milk its cloudy appearance.
Got it.
Think of casein as a big, strong wall,
Okay.
and these bacteria have the tools to break it down,
Okay.
brick by microscopic brick.
Okay. I'm picturing tiny little demolition crews in those test tubes.
I like it.
So how do we know which bacteria are the expert casein destroyers?
That's where the clever part comes in.
Okay.
We don't just use any old milk for this test.
What do you mean?
We use litmus milk.
Okay.
It's not just for show. It's got a built-in signaling system.
Litmus milk. That rings a bell from chemistry class.
Yeah,
It's like a mood ring for acids and bases, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Depending on whether the mixture becomes more acidic or basic,
Uh-huh.
the litmus milk changes color,
Okay.
giving us vital clues about what those bacteria are up to.
So we're not just talking about clear or cloudy, we're talking a whole rainbow of possibilities.
Absolutely. You might see shades of pink,
Okay.
indicating the bacteria are producing acid as they ferment lactose, the sugar in milk.
So that pink color means we've got a lactose-loving bacterial party happening in the test tube.
Exactly.
What about that clear transformation we talked about earlier? What's the color cue for casein breakdown?
That's when things get really interesting visually.
Okay.
A clear tube or even a dark blue-purple hue tells us those bacteria possess a special tool,
Okay.
an enzyme called caseinase.
The casein-busting enzyme.
Right.
And that's what our scientist is looking for, right?
Yeah.
That's the telltale sign that these bacteria have what it takes to break down casein.
Exactly. They've successfully dissolved the fortress walls,
Right.
to use your earlier analogy,
No.
and we can see that transformation with our own eyes,
Right.
thanks to the litmus milk.
This is way more exciting than I thought a test involving milk could be.
Uh-huh.
But before we get lost in the colorful world of these bacterial transformations,
Yeah.
let's introduce two of our bacterial guest stars for today,
Okay.
each bringing their own unique drama to the test tube stage.
I like it.
First up, we have Pseudomonas aeruginosa.
Okay.
A bit of a bacterial superstar, or should we say supervillain?
Well, it depends on the context.
Right.
Pseudomonas aeruginosa is found practically everywhere,
Oh.
from soil and water to,
Right.
unfortunately, hospitals where
Yeah.
it can cause infections,
Yeah.
especially in individuals with weakened immune systems.
And why is that? Is it because of its casein-breaking powers?
It's certainly part of the reason. Pseudomonas aeruginosa is incredibly adaptable
Okay.
and can break down a wide range of substances,
Uh-huh.
including casein.
Okay.
This ability allows it to thrive in diverse environments
Right.
and even resist some antibiotics.
Wow.
In our test, Pseudomonas aeruginosa would give us that clear or dark blue-purple result, a testament to its casein-busting capabilities.
So it aces the casein hydrolysis test.
It does.
It's a clear indication of its ability to break down casein and survive in a variety of environments,
Yeah.
including, unfortunately, those hospital settings.
Right.
All right, moving on to our second guest star,
Okay.
one you're probably more familiar with,
Okay.
Escherichia coli,
Right.
or E. coli as it's more commonly known.
Ah, E. coli, a regular resident of our gut.
Right.
Now, before you jump out of your seats,
Yeah.
it's important to remember that most E. coli strains are harmless
Right.
and actually play a crucial role in our digestive system.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We often hear E. coli and think food poisoning, but it's not
Yeah.
always the villain, right?
Absolutely not. However,
Yeah.
certain strains can cause illness,
Right.
reminding us that the bacterial world isn't always black and white.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So tell us, how does our mostly harmless friend E. coli fare in the casein hydrolysis test?
Okay.
Does it possess the same casein-busting powers as our previous guest star, Pseudomonas aeruginosa?
Well, unlike Pseudomonas aeruginosa, our friend E. coli doesn't break down casein.
Oh, really?
It lacks that special enzyme, caseinase, that we talked about earlier.
Right.
So in our milk test, you'd likely see the milk remain cloudy or even turn a bit pink due to lactose fermentation.
Okay.
But you wouldn't see that clear solution that screams casein gone.
So our resident good guy, E. coli, leaves the casein intact, while our more mischievous Pseudomonas aeruginosa breaks it down.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how two bacteria, often living side by side, can have such different effects.
Yeah, it really highlights the diversity of the bacterial world.
But here's the real question that's bubbling up for me. Why does all of this even matter?
Okay.
We've seen the color changes, met the bacterial guest stars.
Right.
But so what?
You're right to ask, so what? It's all well and good to marvel at these microbial transformations.
Right.
But the true magic lies in what this knowledge allows us to do. For starters, the Casein Hydrolysis Test is a powerful tool in bacterial identification.
You mean it's actually used in labs?
Yes.
Not just a cool experiment for us to talk about.
Absolutely. Think about it in a medical setting.
Okay.
A doctor needs to know exactly what kind of bacteria they're dealing with to treat an infection effectively.
Right.
This test helps them do just that.
Okay.
It's like a fingerprint at a crime scene.
Okay.
Helping to pinpoint the culprit.
That makes so much sense. Knowing whether a bacterium produces that casein-busting enzyme, caseinase, could tell doctors a lot about how it might behave in the body.
Exactly.
Are there other applications beyond medical diagnoses?
Oh, absolutely. This test has significant implications for the food industry.
Okay.
Particularly when it comes to your favorite dairy products.
Oh, right. We're dealing with milk in our test.
Right.
So it makes sense that it has applications for dairy products.
Precisely. The Casein Hydrolysis Test can help identify those sneaky bacteria responsible for spoilage.
Oh.
Like a microscopic game of Clue.
I like it.
By knowing which bacteria are the usual suspects.
Right.
Food scientists can develop strategies to prevent contamination.
Right.
And extend the shelf life of your milk, cheese, and yogurt.
So this little test could prevent entire batches of milk from going bad.
It can.
Now that's what I call a superpower. But you mentioned other surprises.
Right.
What about this connection to biotechnology? I'm intrigued.
Okay.
How does caseinase fit into that world?
This is where things get really cutting edge.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about caseinase breaking down casein into smaller components?
Uh-huh.
Well, this process is harnessed in biotechnology to create hypoallergenic milk products.
Hypoallergenic milk. So by breaking down the casein, they can essentially remove the part of the milk that some people are allergic to.
You got it. Caseinase breaks down the casein protein into smaller peptides, making it less likely to trigger an allergic reaction. This opens up a whole new world of dairy options for people with sensitivities.
We've gone from a test tube of milk to medical diagnoses, food safety, and now hypoallergenic milk.
It's amazing.
All thanks to a bacterium's ability to break down casein.
It's incredible how something that seems so simple on the surface can have such far-reaching applications.
That's the beauty of science, isn't it?
Yeah.
Often the most profound discoveries stem from these seemingly basic observations.
Right.
Who knew that watching milk change color could unlock so much potential?
You said it. We started this deep dive talking about bacteria having superpowers.
Right.
And after learning all of this, the ability to break down casein really does seem like one.
Yeah.
But more than that, it makes you realize just how much we still don't know about the microscopic world around us.
Absolutely. What other secrets are hidden within these seemingly simple tests waiting to be discovered?
Right.
What other superpowers might be lurking within the vast and diverse tapestry of life on Earth? Now, those are some exciting and slightly daunting possibilities.
Yeah.
It's like we've opened a door to a whole new universe of possibilities, all inspired by a simple test tube of milk.
Right.
Who knew?
That's the beauty of the deep dive, wouldn't you say?
Right.
We start with something seemingly straightforward.
Right.
And emerge with a whole new perspective on the world around us.
You said it. But before we get too lost in the vast universe of microscopic wonders, I want to bring us back down to earth for a moment.
Right.
And leave our listeners with a final thought.
Okay.
Something to ponder as they enjoy their next glass of milk. Or perhaps a nice aged cheese.
I like it.
We've spent this episode exploring the fascinating world of bacteria and their surprising talents. Specifically, their ability to break down casein.
Right.
But before we wrap up our deep dive, I want to leave you with a question,
Okay.
something to ponder as you enjoy your next glass of milk, or perhaps a nice aged cheese.
I'm ready.
Well, we've focused on bacteria and their abilities. But what about us?
Okay.
If these microscopic organisms can achieve such incredible feats,
Right.
what does that say about the untapped potential of the natural world around us?
That's a great point. We often marvel at the complexity of the human body or the vastness of space.
Yeah.
But sometimes the most astounding wonders are happening right under our noses,
Right.
invisible to the naked eye.
It's like we're just starting to scratch the surface of what's out there.
Yeah.
Who knows what other secrets are waiting to be unlocked?
Right.
What other superpowers might be hidden within the vast and diverse tapestry of life on Earth?
And perhaps even more exciting is the question of how we might harness those powers for good.
Right.
Can we learn from these bacteria,
Right.
draw inspiration from their abilities, and apply that knowledge to solve some of the world's most pressing challenges?
And that's a thought. Imagine a future where we're using the power of bacteria to develop new medicines,
Right.
create more sustainable food systems, and maybe even clean up our environment. All thanks to a deeper understanding of their microscopic world.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does.
What other seemingly simple tests might unlock groundbreaking discoveries?
Right.
What other microscopic marvels are out there just waiting for us to discover them?
Both exciting and a little bit humbling, isn't it?
Absolutely. It reminds us that there's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to discover, no matter how much we think we know.
That's the beauty of a good deep dive, isn't it?
It is.
You start with a seemingly simple question.
Right.
In this case, what happens when you add bacteria to milk?
Right.
And end up on a journey through the fascinating world of bacterial superpowers, medical breakthroughs, and the future of food science.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe one of our listeners will be inspired by this deep dive to make the next big discovery in microbiology.
Now, wouldn't that be something?
Right.
From listening to a podcast about bacteria in milk to revolutionizing an entire field of science.
Exactly.
The possibilities are truly endless.
They are.
Well, on that note,
Yeah.
I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the Casein Hydrolysis Test.
I agree. It's time to let our listeners digest all this incredible information.
But before we go, we want to hear from you. What other microscopic marvels have caught your attention?
Yes.
Share your own discoveries with us on social media using #MilkMystery.
Until next time.
Keep those brains bubbling, those curiosity cups full, and remember,
Yes.
there's a whole universe of wonder waiting to be explored, often in the most unexpected places.
Absolutely.
This is The Deep Dive. Signing off.